Have you ever been stuck in the dangerous cycle of feeling attachment? A fight that never ends, and you can't do anything about the good news. There is hope for change, and it's getting closer. Then you might think about what the wise people of the Marcus Aurelius and other Stoic thinkers. We're going to learn about the art of lack of attachment and free ourselves from the mental chains that hold you back. We'll talk about in this video Stoicism, giving you useful information, ways to break free of the ties. Getting your mind cloudy, get ready for a journey of change towards emotional freedom, getting clear and focused on what really. If you want to grow personally and emotionally, you think that freedom and happiness are good goals. Don't forget that you're in the right place. To sign up for the channel and turn on Get Alerts so you don't miss any, be happy and stay until the end of the watch, the video for tips that we only give out. Thanks to our committed, let's start this journey community. Of discovery and freedom together, let's look into the power of detachment. Layers of detachment, an idea that, at first view, it may look like a give-up, but at its core, it is a journey to the inner freedom detachment. As thought of by the Stoics, is not a sign of carelessness or not interested in worldly things, but a skilled way of giving proper life's factors that are important to. Besides our control, imagine that you are in charge of several kite strings on a windy day. Each one dances to the beat of as the winds pull and tense up, currents of air dictate each string in this made-up world. Scenario stands for an emotional attaching, a link to something outside of that can lead to, if not handled carefully, a sense of being burned out or dragged by events and losing control of one's. So, trajectory detachment suggests, by purposely letting go of these ties, not to lose what we love or care about, but to recognize and accept that things change. These things are often out of our control. There are parts that need to be adjusted, point of view, a shift in our attention and energy direction of what we can really reach our responses, our feelings. These changes, this shift is not an inactive process. It needs a conscious and a constant effort to find where. When we have too much connection, where worry about the outside world starts to control us and define us. But how does one begin this journey of the lack of? The first step is to take a deep look at yourself. Delve into our own thoughts to find the source of this too much connection. It could be a connection, a thing job, or even an idea. The most important thing. The question that needs to be asked is, why does this take over? When I look for an answer, I find the root cause and fears often go hand in hand. Insecurity or the never-ending search for validation and support from the outside. To do this, you need to be brave. The truth of these things inside can be unpleasant, but it's in this pain that comes with growth beyond introspection. Detachment is built up by taking part in events that bring us happiness and pleasure on their own, that fill us without having to outside recognition, or whether you're doing a hobby or something else. Setting aside time for personal projects or just being in nature, does these things improve our ability to find happiness and worth in what is truly ours, in what we can. They teach us how to live in the present, to enjoy the moment, without how heavy our ties are that pull us, bring us back to the past, or make us worry about how to understand in the future. This book is about connection at its core. There is an interesting paradox in condition. We are born with love already inside us, able to make deep and important connections, bonds. But as we go through life, we meet a force that is sneaky and subtle, which starts to shape our lives. The ego, this part of our minds, while important to who we are as individuals, and most of the time, survival goes too far. Encouraging people to form bonds that, when looked at more closely, show themselves as mists that cover our perception, skewed judgment, and taking us away from our basic essence of love. These bonds that came about because of the deep parts of the mind work for looking for outside approval and security, an effort to hold our who they are in things, people, or rank that are naturally beautiful. And but why do we cling so much, holding on tight to these lies? This question makes me think. Thought as we take off the layers of the ego, we understand that ties are an approach to make up for deeply, deeply held fears and worries. Built a wall to protect the seeing that the most sensitive part of who we are. Attachments as ways that the ego shows itself is the first step towards being free. We were free from their useless. The weight of this realization acts as a shining a light on the way back to our real self, a return to the love that is our base. But how do we make this? Change from a point of view, centered on as for love. The truth lies in changing how we feel about personal worth and identity. Instead of trying to get praise and safety from outside sources, we start to build self-love and self-esteem that can't be shaken no matter outside in what ways this paradigm shift is deep down. It frees us and lets us let go of based on fear. Let go of ties and welcome a life characterized by freedom and plenty above all, without conditions. Think about love. Life is a trip across a huge. Attachments to the ocean are like anchors that bind us to temporary islands, while a love-centered view gives us the tools we need with sails that let us find our way. Feel free to explore the infinite. The chances that life gives us the freedom that comes from giving up. And bond based on fear is like the feeling like you're flying high above those limits that the ego sets in the direction of an endless sky, chances to see through the ego's lie. The trip through the slick ground of the ego are marked by frosty mirrors and sneaky shadows. This part of our consciousness is so complicated in its composition, has the power to wrap us up. As if they were in a fog of illusions, lies that make us feel bad about ourselves needing or filled with the fire of envy. These false ideas are what lead us astray. Due to unhealthy mental connections, a crazy search for outside confirmation that never quenches the thirst of the spirit, but only makes the inner void stronger. So the real fight isn't against the ego, not against itself, but against the illusions, makes a war of recognition and an encounter with the shadows that lock up. We know that the road to victory isn't made not with denial or fight, but with acceptance, and the knowledge that these fear and uncertainty inside of you compared to are just phantoms without more force or power than what we give them, building up their confidence, and healing on the inside doesn't have to be done alone. Or not just showing off, but a process of getting in touch with our essence is a lesson that we are who we are at our core. There is no better or higher way. Every trip has a different endpoint. Step a picture of our true selves letting go, especially in the area of seeing ties as a sign of this being full, doesn't mean giving up. There is no love or bond, only an embrace of the fullness that lives inside us. No matter who was there or whether they agreed of other people, this detachment lets us see the vastness of the world is acknowledged. That mental strength doesn't come from having control over other people, however, from fairness and a shared understanding that every person, every soul we meet has an important part in our true mental strength. On your journey has the most success where self. Having a lot of understanding and empathy, knowing that as we move through the waters of life, we are alone at the same time. Guides, and part of a huge and the complex network work of since this is the case, how can we break free from the ego's chains? And take on the task of real freedom has two parts. It takes guts to dive deep into ourselves, facing and getting better from the scars that make us look for approval from outside, and at the same time the compassion to understand that we are all human. we see everyone as a reflection of ourselves. Practicing journey detachment on your own. Putting detachment to use everyday lives is a journey that tests the waves of our being are a call to start your trip from the safe shores of the known towards the huge ocean of growth. And there is truth in this trip. Detachment guides us like a lighthouse, seeing through the fog of past events and the ties they have shaped the journey of our heart's needs, not decide the shape of our future, getting over the fear of losing out. FOMO is a fight against in our time, the flow of a society that praises being everywhere and being saturated with. Feels this fear driven by false beliefs, how happiness is shown on social media. And being in the media ties us to a never-ending loop of looking for something never out of reach, a picture of lasting happiness and satisfaction. Beyond the views, getting out of this cycle means denying the idea that being happy is a place where hands and eyes have shaped it of other people, and accepting the idea that it is in the trip through the water under our own stoicism, with its old knowledge, is a boat gives us the answer. To this, liberation is a call to pay attention to what's inside our effect, what we think and do, and specifics. It doesn't teach us how to grow with this philosophy, to give up the world or its pleasures, but to change how we think about value, to find happiness and wealth in what we really have, our being, our able to learn to love, to get past rethinking happiness in our own, in words, is a revolutionary actor move that gives us the courage to see beyond the smoky curtains of illusion by recognizing our worth without. We let outside approval in by opening the doors to life's full range of experiences, from the happiest ones to the saddest ones, sorrows, all important parts of the fibers of. Because of this, detachment is not the end. But A doesn't mean giving up, it means life in its fullest and deeper sense. In its wholeness, it lets us make more real links with people other than not with others, but with ourselves, finding the beauty and flaws that are hidden, each of risk and changeability. The moment turns into a chance for experience, a step on the path to self-discovery. The steps we take to improve ourselves the way to. We will never stop looking for happiness. Happiness, we often come across the wrong belief that it lives in faraway places, maybe in the arms of other people, in the vaults of information treasures, or at the top of the social ladder. But awareness is what the real heart of happiness that lasts through life, storms and flowers in the fields of the soul, comes from a deeper place. And deep place, our inner having faith in oneself and having personal. The steps you take to improve yourself are the building blocks on which the house of real happiness is built, not a rigid system that was forced on them. Coming from the outside in, but a moving piece of art shaped by thought, the desire to improve, and the being able to marvel on your own, changes and detachment in this. This doesn't mean cutting ties or avoiding being alone, and instead focusing on a link that is stronger and more genuine. Being alone, understanding that our true worth is not connected to the acceptance or presence of two others, is freeing. This doesn't mean not caring, but a love for oneself that lets for us to be done by ourselves, no matter what others think. Embracing the Stoic way of life, tips for paying attention to what's under being in charge and calmly accepting what is not. We build a source that can't be shaken. Of happiness. This happiness it's not weak or conditional, it's strong. Supported not by outside approval, but by the constant growing and deepening of ours being. This road, even though it's hard, opens the door to a rich life, and that is by helping us grow as people. Our whole lives become works of art, not because it is perfect or can't be broken, difficulties, but because it's real. We're ready to see the world's beauty, and the things other people have done, but we don't depend on these parts for our feeling of worth or happiness. Accepting that things change is the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, was one of the sharpest minds that people have ever known resonate, and through the years with a strong message about letting go of. The core of Stoicism is the idea of change reveals an important truth about life from the beginning to the end. From the shortest to the longest links are subject to the uniform law of change. Nothing stays the same. Is long-term agreement, and by taking this fact to heart, we can open our look at the dance of life all the time, dance of birth, growth, decline, and getting back together with people. Understanding makes us want to see more. The feel of stability to see there is beauty in how quickly our links with other people by that every person who comes our way is we are only here for a while and not forever. Told to enjoy every moment with more. Thank you for being there, and the Stoic rule of change in more depth does not teach us to keep our distance, not emotionally from other people, but rather to allow the normal flow of coming in to happen. Stay away from each other and their lives without worry, or we are freed from resistance when we accept it. The chains of pain that often come with loss or change, it gives us with a calm desire to let go with a heavy heart. But peace of mind, of thanks for the sharing experiences. This point of view changes the way we interact with others. They shouldn't hold on to them out of fear. Without them, we learn to value them more, for who they are and what they bring to we are here and now. And change is far from being a cause of pain, turns into a reason to learn more about the living water, to love more freely, with a greater understanding of the value of each shared one time of real freedom in relationships. This means it's not in the quest for an unreal sense of security about staying put, but in being able to fully experience them, to let go and go with the flow of life. Have faith, and we learn that in every goodbye to love. There is a chance for a fresh start, in at the end, the promise of a new way of life, power and control over our journey. As people, we often have to deal with the storm of feelings and events that seem out of our hands, yet as we dig from the depths of Stoic knowledge, a light of clarity comes through in the distance, directing us through the rough water of. In real life, Marcus Aurelius was a ruler who not just land, but also endless ideas. Rich people gave us a golden key to mental freedom and the ability to choose a line between what we can do and shape and what needs to be accepted as it is. Have you ever stopped to think about the power that comes from being different between what we do and what we think, and emotions and how people feel about, and the actions of others? Think about the freedom of seeing, that even though we are in charge of our inner universe, that the outside world follows rules that do not belong to us. This difference is not just a theory of separation, but a lively welcome to self-improvement, instead of falling apart our energy in places other than in charge. Why not channel it into building an underground fortress, a fortress that can't be shaken in the face of the intense storms? That people relationships when they're not expected, essence will always bring quiet wisdom. Instructs us to put our money in the good. The reason we're here, encouraging growth, being emotionally stable in a way that doesn't wobble, doesn't fall apart when faced with the ups and downs of life. In other words, by taking charge of our power to handle our feelings and thoughts, we open doors to a calmer and a healthy life that sets us free from the bonds of what is outside of us reach. And here, dear viewer, is a stirring up to checking in with ourselves. Where have we been? Setting up. What kinds of forces are we trying to hold on to? The reins of the can't be stopped, or are we building a place of peace and strength inside myself? I want you to think about how this conservative view can be a lighthouse in your life, taking you to a safe place to know yourself and peace and quiet if you like this. Please don't miss the chance. Get the book now. Stoicism in the 21st Century Versions of Old Methods for Today's Problems, and get your prosperity and wealth. And make the connections to this link to the ebook in the reply that was pinned, because having enough to live on your own in a world, relationships and things that you own often define the shapes of our Alexander the Great's voice of happiness. Sounds like a wake-up call to a deeper level, and the more real world he shows getting by on your own is not a dream of being alone, but as a call to discover happiness that comes from sources that will never run out us. This quiet point of view, far from just being a game in looking inside, is a map for finding your way around the how complicated human relationships are, with grace and peace and quiet. Think about the groundbreaking idea that true happiness and peace are fruits grows well in the rich soil of our. Because we are in this land, we plant the seeds of wisdom, water them with strength, and harvest your emotions. Then liberty and self-sufficiency appear. Not as something that keeps us from the world, as a garden where our deepest needs are met by ourselves. A change in how we look for inner peace instead of outer peace calls into question the paradigm on which we rely, based on outside forces, people, positions of things for our satisfaction. Stoic wisdom tells us that by making our own forces stronger, the storms are less likely to hit us, that anger in the outside world. To put it another way, our health is based on our own essence. The changes in partnerships and the ups and downs of material life lose their power to make our insides unstable peace. This idea not only makes us stronger as individuals, but also changes the nature of our interactions with other people from a full state of being, rather than we add to the building of neediness of better for you and healthier related to dynamics. Think about it for a moment. Partnerships that aren't based on dependence, as long as two wholes are shared. Honor each other, grow, and meet dear. I'd like to leave you with a question. Are we putting our happiness on strong internal, or are we just a swell on the ocean of outside things I'd like you to do? Think about how the value of being self-sufficient can show up in your life isn't just an idea, as a practice that grows over time at the heart of your loves and goals, and the way to having an understanding of the twisting path we. As you walk in search of understanding and balance of emotions, Stoic knowledge with Marcus Aurelius in charge, we get to use a celestial map to find your way around the rough waters of our own attachments. This theory was based on being self-aware and reflecting does not only encourage us to pay attention to our feelings and thoughts from away, but to dive, they knew deep down in their essence, short-lived nature that defines them, and more importantly, the power we have over them. Think about the practice for a moment. A look inside as a way to get to each step in the middle of a maze. This, in turn, helps us understand the complicated bonds we make around ourselves and other people. By the secret paths that our thoughts take us, are able to figure out what kind of love do we really feel? A sign of shared admiration and respect? Or is it something that ties us to the need to be liked and the fear of? When we're lonely, deep thought helps us to understand the difference between real love that makes our lives better to live and a dependence that holds us captive in rounds of to be unhappy and want this. Making a difference is the first step towards emotional freedom, an awakening to the freedom that lets us deal with being mature in your interactions and in life. Getting wise by following the Stoic practice of taking time to think about our thoughts. And we don't just learn about the fleeting nature of our feelings, but also about the strength that's inside of us, being able to pick how to reply to them. This self-awareness activity is an important part of the liberation, because our ties lead us on a way to grow and figuring out who I am. So, dear listener, I want you to think about how often do we take a moment to really look at the threads that make the patterns of our lives. Relationships, by making it a habit of self-reflection, we can not only those hidden in our own hearts, but also learn how to handle our situations with even more freedom and sincerity, letting our social senses guide us the search for peace and wisdom in the complicated fabric of our lives. Stoic philosophy in particular, during the Marcus Aurelius's wise and thoughtful advice, gives us a seemingly delicate inner paradox. How can we both accept mental detachment but honor our essence as it naturally is public? Because this question makes us want to look into not the denying, but the having fun with our sense of community in a way that improves both the person and the Marcus Aurelius and his group of deep self-reflection guides us. Getting through this maze shows that following what comes naturally to us does not mean giving up the ties but instead interact with them in a more aware and healthy way of just think for a moment that each getting along with another being is a balanced act in which on one side real love and gratitude are present, and detachment from feelings on the other hand. This balance isn't a tight RPP, stretched over a chasm of no care, but rather a bridge that links two hearts with a strong sense of independence, and the kindness of this concept of balance is Stoic. Empathy shows us how to love without having the need to value others, not just our wants or fears, but as sovereign people each navigating. It's a call to take their own journey. Build good relationships that don't only hit us where we need to feel connect, but also honor what is holy area of a person. From this point of view, emotional liberty. When you feel detached, you don't just pull away. A warm welcome to more real and connection that makes sense. It's the admission that even though we can't change other people or the results of, we can choose how to talk to each other. Go up to them with an open heart, free from the chains of fear, and look forward to thank you for following the video to the end. And we hope the lessons on being emotionally detached have been informative. Please subscribe to the show and turn on alerts to learn more information that will make your personal growth journey. Please click subscribe button, like, and send this video to people who might use these tactics to your advantage of mental state freedom. Your thoughts are important to us. Share your stories and how you plan to use what you've learned in your life will go on with us as we seek more understanding and change. Until next time.